So Yes are one of the most legendary progressive rock bands of all time. We all know that. Their albums have defined the genre. Fragile, Close to the Edge, Relay, and many, many more. But while the guitars, the vocals, and the bass have relatively been stable, the keyboard seat has been a revolving door, a roundabout, if you like. Now, from the very beginning in 1968, Yes have cycled through an almost unbelievable lineup of keyboard players. Some stayed for years, others only lasted for one record, and some have left under very strange circumstances indeed. So let's go back to the beginning and trace the complete timeline of every Yes keyboard player, and the reasons, where we can, of why they left. Now, the first keyboard player in Yes was Tony Kaye. Now, he joined when the band formed in 1968, and he played on their debut albums Yes, Time and a Word, and that breakthrough album, the Yes album. Tony Kaye's style was simple but powerful. Hammered organ, piano, a bit of electric piano. He wasn't into synthesizers or all that exotic gear. Now, that worked fine at first, but really by 1971, progressive rock was evolving very fast indeed. Bands like King Crimson, Genesis and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they were pushing the boundaries with mellotrons, Moogs and massive keyboard rigs. Now, Yes had really wanted to keep up with the Joneses, and Kaye really wasn't willing to go in that direction. So the band basically told him, you adapt or you leave. Tony chose to leave. And so, after helping Yes to break through, Tony Kaye was gone. But don't worry, he'll be back later in the story. Now, replacing Kaye was none other than Rick Wakeman. He was already known as a rising star from his work with the Strawbs and as a session musician. He even played on David Bowie's Life on Mars, if you remember. Wakeman was the complete opposite of Kaye. He brought a wall of keyboards, mini-moogs, mellotrons and organs, stacked as far as the eye could see. And he also brought showmanship. He brought capes, theatrics and solos really that had felt like their own individual symphonies. Now, with Wakeman in the band, Yes entered that golden age. Fragile and Close to the Edge are really still considered masterpieces, and quite rightly so. But then came the fly in the ointment, Tales of Topographic Oceans, a double album inspired by a single footnote in a Hindu text. Ambitious even by Prog standards. Wakeman hated it. He once said he spent more time eating curry during the rehearsals than actually playing. I think we can believe that. And by 1974, he'd simply had enough. He walked away to focus on his solo career, including that now famous Journey to the Centre of the Earth album. But like Kaye, Wakeman's story with Yes was also far from over. So now, with Wakeman gone, Yes brought in Patrick Moraz, who was a Swiss keyboard player with a background in jazz fusion. He immediately put his stamp on the album Relay, one of Yes's most adventurous records ever. The centerpiece track, The Gates of Delirium, is practically a battlefield in sound, and Moraz's chaotic, aggressive playing was really essential. Fans today are still debating whether Relay is Yes's most radical album. But again, Moraz's tenure was short-lived. Because it was in 1976, when Wakeman expressed interest in returning, that Moraz was really quietly pushed out. He later admitted he felt betrayed, but in typical Yes fashion, the decision came down to who best fit the band's vision at that particular moment. So now, with Wakeman back, Yes entered another strong period. Going for the one in 1977 was a triumphant return to form, featuring Wakeman's soaring church organ on Awaken, a track many fans call the ultimate Yes epic. But the thing is, harmony never lasted long in this band, and by 1980, with a lukewarm reception that Tomato had received, and mounting frustrations within the band's direction, Wakeman once again quit. At this point, he'd already established himself as both Yes's greatest asset, but also the most volatile member. So in 1980, it brought in one of the strangest Yes lineups ever. With both Wakeman and Anderson gone, the band recruited Trevor Horn and Geoff Downes from the Buggles. Downes was a very different kind of keyboardist. He brought a modern, streamlined sound, and his playing really defined that Drama album. But while Drama was controversial at the time, many fans have now seen it as an underrated gem. But after just one tour, the lineup collapsed. Horn left, Downes left, and Yes seemed finished. But we know, of course, they weren't. They reinvented themselves yet again in 1983 and released 90125, one of the most successful prog-to-pop crossovers in history. And behind the keys this time was none other than Tony Kaye, back after 12 years away. Now, with Trevor Rabin on guitar and a more modern sound, Yes scored their first #1 single, Owner of a Lonely Heart. We all know that one. With Kaye's keyboards were more understated here, but they fit the polished radio-friendly direction just perfectly. Now, Kaye stayed with Yes throughout the 80s and the early 90s, appearing on albums like Big Generator and Talk. But by 1995, though, he retired, leaving Yes for what was the last time. But of course, Rick Wakeman just couldn't stay away, could he? He rejoined in 1990 for the Union album, which famously combined those two rival Yes lineups into one giant combination. It was chaotic, it was messy, and Wakeman hated it. So he left again in 1992. But then, surprise, surprise, he came back in 1996 for Keys to Ascension, a return to that classic lineup. Fans were thrilled. Then, in 2004, he left once more, citing health issues and the exhausting touring schedule for his departure this time. Now Wakeman had joined and quit Yes 4 separate times. No other member of any major band has ever had a relationship quite like this one. During the late 90s, Russian keyboardist Igor Khoroshev joined. Now, technically, Igor was brilliant, and many fans felt that he'd captured the spirit of Wakeman better than anybody else. But in the year 2000, his time ended really rather abruptly, after allegations of inappropriate behaviour with female crew members during a tour. The band totally cut ties with him immediately. It was a sudden and unfortunate end to really what was a promising chapter. The band even turned to the next generation next by picking Rick Wakeman's son Oliver. He'd toured with them from 2008 to 2011, and he worked on early material for the album Fly From Here. But before that album was fully completed, Oliver had been replaced, and the man who replaced him this time was none other than, you've guessed it, Geoff Downes, making his return to Yes after nearly 30 years away. Now, since 2011, Geoff Downes has been the keyboard player of Yes. He played on Fly From Here and has remained with the band ever since through their later albums and tours. Remarkably, he has now been in the role longer than anyone except Rick Wakeman himself. So after decades of instability, it seems the revolving door has finally stopped spinning. Now, for clarity, I am aware that Eddie Jobson, Trevor Horn and Billy Sherwood have also played guitars for the band, but as far as this article is concerned, I've not included them. But then again, this is Yes we're talking about, and you just never know what is around the corner once more. So there you have it, the complete history of every Yes keyboard player from Tony Kaye in 1968 to Geoff Downes today. The story isn't just about musicians joining and leaving a band. It's about how each one changed the sound of Yes, from Kaye's straightforward Hammond organ, to Wakeman's symphonic wizardry, to Moraz's chaotic fusion, to Downes' sleek modern style. Now I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think was the greatest Yes keyboardist in your opinion? Was it Wakeman's brilliance, Moraz's intensity, Kaye's classic feel, or maybe even one of the underrated later players like Khoroshev? Drop your thoughts in the comments and you know that I'll be reading and responding. Now, whilst that video features the keyboard players who were members of Yes over the years, I shot a video here on some other keyboard players I felt could have rivaled Wakeman in style and talent outside of Yes. Watch that video next, and I'll see you over there.